you have a really interesting story, man. You were just literally in jail just over a week ago, man.
I was part of the January 6th, whatever you want to call it, right? And I was one of the first ones to get arrested. So 2 weeks later, I was put in solitary confinement, being told I'm going to get 28 years in prison. I did a year and a half in solitary confinement, and then a total of 45 months in prison. You know, being able to sit here and affiliate someone with you here, David, it's a blessing.
Life's a fucking mental sport, especially when you're in business and being in solitary confinement. How did you deal with that, man? I can't even imagine.
The mind is not mentally prepared to go through that type of solitude. And so I had a Bible, I read the Bible, and stared at the wall. The big thing is, like, I had to learn how to, like, not freak out.
I was gonna ask you about what techniques you use, and I would imagine meditation.
Definitely. Meditation, a lot of like an inward journey into my own mind. You know, if anyone listening to this, go do a month of solitude. No stimulation, no phones, no anything, and see what happens.
I'm excited about this next chapter for you, right? Because I feel like, man, you're gonna come out with all this different kind of insight. So what are you gonna be working on?
Every business that I start, I need to have an exit plan. And so that's what I'm focused on, is how do I build a business that is an actual asset to somebody that would buy my business at a multiplier.
And I want to talk about trends now, and how do you uncover trends, or how do you get ahead of the curve, right? Well, how do you uncover that?
Don't read like gossip stuff. Read like these like industry stuff that are real, like kind of underground, and make sure that you spend time really just kind of digging through business journals, and you'll discover jewels there, and stay away from the mainstream stuff.
Guys, LFG Show. I told you we don't fuck around. We got people straight out partying a week ago. They're right here at Affiliate Summit West. I got Ronnie Sandlin. The guy's a legend in the space, right? I can't believe I'm walking. I see you, man.
Yeah, it was great to catch up with you, man. It's you know, David's an OG, so it was really good to reconnect with you, bro.
No, we met, the first time we met was, I think we met a geek out, the first geek out ever in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was the sales guy, man. We got like 8 or 10 people. If you remember that, I was telling people I thought we were gonna be the match of that. It was
dude, it was so funny, dude. It was supposed to be a mansion, but you know, it's one of those things where you get it, like you rent something and the photos look amazing. You get there and it's like Temu version of it, you know. But it was what it was.
People were to fuck me up, man. Because people pay like $7 grand, $8 grand, and I don't know that.
It was,
you know, the James didn't know either. We got catfish is what happened.
It was horrible. And then the hostess woman, it was, you know, supposed to be serving it. She was like, "Hey, Dave, what's up?" Like tatted up. And he was like, "Just go home, girl. You paid her. Just go home. We don't even want you here."
Bro,
it was pretty bad.
That was like a legendary moment.
It's hysterical, but it was great information.
It was.
So it was like, you're not paying for the mansion. You're paying to get the information. At the end of the day, you know what? There's people that would pay triple, quadruple to have been at that event that day.
Yo, exactly. That's what it was. I mean, it blew my mind away, and I think that's why people were cool, because listen, we were honest on, like, listen, we thought this was a fucking mansion. It wasn't. These guys fucked us, and people didn't care. They got the good quality, right? And now look at it, it's blown up, man. So shout out to them for making some.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when I first met you, and we hung out a few times. We did some things together, man. And bro, you have a really interesting story, man, and I'm excited to have you here to talk about a story, because man, you were just literally in jail just over a week ago, man. So let's talk about that feeling, how it felt to get the fuck out with breathe fresh air.
I've been out for 4 months now, so I got allowed up before the pardon. So you know what David's referring to is I was part of the January 6th, whatever you want to call it, right? And I was one of the first ones to get arrested. So 2 weeks later, I was in DC and basically a black site in DC. Okay, put in solitary confinement, being told I'm going to get 28 years in prison, being told that if I cooperate with the U.S. government, maybe I can get 12 years in prison, and maybe I could have a life, you know? And so, you never know a strength of a person until they have to walk through the fire. And, you know, it was definitely an experience for me. I did a year and a half in solitary confinement, and then a total of 45 months in prison. And so, you know, being able to sit here and affiliate someone with you here, David, it's a blessing. And it really makes me realize, you know, how blessed my life is, and how much to appreciate, you know, what other people may take for granted. I mean, it's something I wish didn't happen to me, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, in life, people always ask, do you regret what you did? Or like, I always feel like everything's part of the fucking story. Helps you get to where I'm sure it sounds like you feel the same way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I can't change the past, but I can learn from everything that I've learned from that experience, that I think that most people will never get that opportunity, if you want to call it that, to go through that, walk through that fire and come out a different, changed man. I see it as a blessing. I'm not mad at it.
So, you know what I want to talk about, because I think when you're a business owner, I mean, life's a fucking mental sport, especially when you're a business, and being in solitary confinement, How did you deal with that, man? I can't even imagine.
Right. And I get that question a lot. So a lot of people don't deal with it. And so there's a lot of people, you can hear people going crazy in other cells, and I'm not going to get graphic, but it gets, the mind is not mentally prepared to go through that type of solitude. So they would feed us through a tray in the door. I was allowed out 30 minutes per week to either take a shower or to make a phone call. And the only interaction I'd get was when the correction officers were cuffing me, taking me to the shower. And so I had a Bible. I read the Bible. I mean, people say they read the Bible. I really read the Bible, probably 30, 40 times, some crazy amount, and stared at the wall. But, the big thing is like, I had to learn how to not freak out, because at first I'm not gonna lie, I definitely freaked out. My life's over with, and a lot of it was just take a deep breath, one breath at a time, a lot of breathing. I know you hear people say just breathe, but holy crap, man, that really did help me. Just take a breath, just breathe. Let's just get this through this one breath at a time. And, I didn't have a key, so I didn't have any other choice. It was either survive or lose my mind. And I wasn't going to lose my mind. So, yeah.
I was going to ask you about what techniques you use. And I would imagine meditation. I don't know, breathing meditation, right?
It's definitely meditation. A lot of an inward journey into my own mind. So Carl Jung says that the mind is the most, it's not exact quote, but he says it's the last unexplored frontier. And it's the great adventures inside of our own minds. And most people never go deep into their minds and really kind of unravel the mystery that goes on, behind what consciousness is and who we truly are. And it is a scary journey. It's a painful journey, but it's a journey I think that was for me absolutely necessary. And I do believe for most people, they need to go through the journey, and it is a painful journey. And so it was just going deep into my mind and just thinking and just being in my mind. And that's kind of hard to explain because there's so much stimulation in today's society that it's very difficult to just disconnect and go deep in a person's mind. But I think, if anyone listening to this, go do if you could afford it, if you're able to, go do a month of solitude, of just being away from everybody. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe it's camping, maybe it's in the desert, maybe it's on a boat, but just go be away from everyone and everything for at least 1 month. It's no stimulation, no phones, no anything, and see what happens.
And that's really interesting advice, or that's great advice, but it's hard. I don't know how practical that is for people that rely on making money online, right?
So, well, if you're making good money online, you could do that, right?
You could definitely systems in place. You have someone run your business for you.
Thinking if I don't have the systems in place to automate my business where I can't be away from people for 1 month, maybe that's what I should be working on.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. Obviously, I'm in business for myself. I've always, since I was young, man, I ran track. I've always been trying to optimize my health, my body, everything, and my business.
Right.
And I study people who have strong mental mindsets, right? And I'm not sure who it was. It was some billionaire. I don't know if it was Elon Musk or Bill Gates. Somebody. They said the same thing. They go away they took little chunks, a week with no electronics, 4 times a year, but they do a month. So I don't know if you learned that on your own, but I read someone else said that too, very successful people. Success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they do. And I mean, it makes sense for all of us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, try it. Even if it's for a weekend, just go into your mind. Just sit and do nothing and see what happens.
Yeah. So, man, how long were you without electronics? Was it 4 years? I mean, everyone's on Instagram. You're on social. You were doing tons of ad spend, right? I mean, the fuck, man. I can't imagine that.
Our first 2 years was essentially nothing, no electronics. I mean, every once in a while I'd get a hand on a tablet or a prison tablet. I mean, it was just mostly, nothing. And then after the year and a half, I was able to get books in. And that was a huge blessing to get books. I read over 600 books at least while I was in prison. And these are, good books finance, venture capital, private equity, just really, really good information. And so, it really made me realize how little that I actually knew. And I thought that I knew. I thought that I knew these things. And I reread a lot of books that I had read. And this time it was a totally different experience reading them. I thought that I understood this book, but I truly didn't understand it. And so, another eye-opening thing was just the lack of information that people have, and, how little people actually go to acquire new information. And I'm not talking about podcasts. I'm talking about really, really reading and taking the time to go into very, very high-level books and and make it an actual practice of your life. That's so important.
Yeah. That's amazing what you said, because I just realized you had, all you had was time.
Right.
And that's the one thing you can't get back. Like we try to make this money to have freedom, but then we want to become the slaves. I mean, I know so many business owners, they're slaves to the business. They make all this money, but they have no quality. Like you ran that much time, and it's crazy. Like not that I envy that you were solid. That sucks, man. But that I feel like we rush. I listen to the audiobook, I read a book, and I almost want to rush to get through it to consume it. But I've always thought I'd like to go back to that book, but I never fucking do it, man. You motivate me to add that to me, because there's so many good books out there, and it's just crazy. It's very what you're saying is very eye opening.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what would you say? You read 600 books, or what's the top? What was the most influential book? Which ones that impact you the most? Like the 1, 2, or 3?
Well, the ones that impact me the most were like the ones on like psychology and the inner mind. Like, the business book that I thought was the most fabulous book that not many people are talking about is Opportunity by Eben Pagan.
I never even heard about that.
Oh my gosh. Eben Pagan is amazing. Yeah. And this book just didn't do super well, but it's such an eye-opening book. I probably read that book 10 times, just rereading it. It's such a fantastic book, which talks about how to identify opportunity. And we live in a world where there's a million just in here, there's 1,000 opportunities you can go into, and all of them good opportunities. Which one do we put our attention to and focus on? And how do you make that judgment call? And it's very, very good book. And he talks about the exponential, the impact of technology and how it affects our opportunity and what opportunity means to us in this new age. Very interesting. Now, for like the top books that really affected me, like psychologically and mentally and emotionally, I've been a big fan of Carl Jung my whole life. And, it goes back to, I thought I had read these books and I had never really truly digested it to the level I assumed I had before. Man and His Symbols is a fantastic book by Carl Jung. Man in Search of a Soul, I believe I may be butchering the title, by Carl Jung, fantastic. And it talks about the different stages of a person's life and, their shadow and, their anima and the ego inside of them, and just very, very deep level, psychology. And it can be applied towards business and marketing and self-development in so many ways. So I encourage anyone that is in marketing to read these books, not only for self-development, but once you understand, how people's minds work, writing good marketing copy is going to be much easier for you. Once you understand like kind of the fundamentals there and the archetypes and how we kind of process things.
Wow, we get really deep here. I love it. I love because I think we're addicted as a society to social media and being on our fucking phones or in front of screens. Kids are addicted to it. So, for me, you're putting things in perspective. I'm trying this year to be more spiritual. I used to meditate every day. I've been on and off. I used to do flotation therapy for an hour. I'd be alone and I'd get out. I'd feel younger. I'd look at my face and I felt like I went back in time, man. It was nice, right? So you remind me of that. And I think especially in what we do, there's so much fucking shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah.
You come to these shows, you see this new fucking AI, this new offer, and you want to do it all, but you can't do it all, right? And then that comes with a sacrifice. You're not going to spend as much time with your family or with this person, that person. So I think what you're saying is super, super deep and so relevant,
right?
Because at the end of the day, we're going to talk about affiliate marketing. I mean, you are affiliate marketing, digital marketer, right? And but everything you're talking about there, it relates at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Work-life balance and really putting things in perspective of what matters to you. That's another thing about prison, like who matters, right? In this industry, there's so many people that'll smile at your face and give you a high five and hug you and then sabotage your success. And I saw that. I mean, a lot of people watching this may have, saw that happen to me. So when I went to prison, people were very, very excited about, because I was doing well before that. And, seeing somebody, fall, it's very exciting for people. They get to feel like, wow, it's good. That guy's getting what he deserves. And so you got to be very careful about the people you surround yourself that they, you think that they're rooting for you. You think that they have your best interest in mind, but they really do not. And they're going to take from you, and they're going to do it in ways that maybe they're not even aware of that they're doing it. And it's like a toxic thing, especially in this industry. And I love this industry. I'm not saying that as a whole, like everybody's doing that, but it's something you got to be aware of. And all these people on social media, they're not your friends. And so prison taught me who my real friends are, and the ones who stuck by my side, shout out to John Cristani, Mike Laughlin, Keith Martinez. These guys really, really, stood with me the whole journey. And there's quite a few about, naming, I just, but there's the people really, really, I saw who really had my back and was really rooting for me, and who was just like not.
Yeah. I feel like these past few years, you've gotten almost like a PhD in human psychology, right? Where you self-taught.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know PhD, but yeah, definitely I've learned. I'm at a higher level. I would like to think that I was going into this experience for sure. Yeah.
So with that being said, why do you think? What was it? I don't want to judge people, right? But why the fuck are you? It sucks, right? Listen, you did what you did. You served the time. You paid the price, whatever, right. And you learn from it. You come out. It seemed like a much upgraded, better person. But why do you think people do that? Why do you think they cheer at people's demise? I mean, what's the fucking deep rooted issue with them?
I think it's a lot of people in our society are in an arrested development. So they look like they're adults, but they're actually not fully developed maturity. And there's a book called King, Magician, Warrior, Lover, which I recommend everyone read, that talks about like how in modern society we don't have rituals to manhood. And so like in like previous societies, like when a boy was turning into a man, the chief would see him like playing in the river with a girl, and it went from frolicking, fun, innocent to it's not so innocent anymore. And so he would say stop to the boy and say, today, Jimmy, you are going to die. Come with me. And Jimmy goes and runs away, and he goes to the women in the village. Please, grandma, please, mom, please, auntie, please help me. The chief says he's going to kill me. I want to die. They hide the boy, and the chief and his men go to track down the boy and pull him out of the sanctuary of the woman. And the women are crying, please, please don't kill my boy. Please. No, today Jimmy dies. They pull him out. And then they take him on a journey where and they put him somewhere in a situation or some like situation where he has to do something that may kill him. And they leave him alone to go through this journey of to experience this journey. They're watching him. They really don't. He doesn't know this, but they're watching him. And once they feel like he's gone through this journey of like spirit journey, or it's different in different cultures. Then they say, you have died today, Jimmy. You are now a man. And they wrap him up and they take him to the man's temple where only men are allowed to be. We don't have these types of rituals in today's society, right? We have, pseudo rituals, rituals of manhood that aren't real rituals. And so you have a lot of boy men who are, like I said, arrested development that are not fully actualized. Not to say that I am. There's a lot of work that each of us do, that I do especially. But I think that it kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but I think that's what it is. A lot of people need to do the inner work, and instead of doing the inner work, they'd rather tear somebody down, because the inner work is very difficult, very painful, and very long.
Yeah, and I think that social media impacts that as well. And I remember prior to you being arrested, you were all over. I'd be on Facebook. Every day I see new material, new content by you, and you were you'd have a bunch of cash. Yeah, you were like, I don't know, you were doing, it would get, you did what you would get my attention, and you get other people's attention.
Right.
And maybe like they don't get what we're trying to do. We're trying to get their attention. You had a school, I forgot the name.
School of Hidden Knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, the School of Hidden Knowledge. Yeah. Right. And so I think that maybe some people see that like, yo, who's this guy? Why is he so fucking flashy? Whatever.
Right.
People get, and it doesn't, they don't get it, understand, man, what we're trying to do as marketers. Right. Yeah. So maybe that impacted them as well. Who knows?
Yeah. And I think that part of that was my own immaturity, because like, I know it was getting attention, but it was like, was it getting the right attention? And at what harm was I doing to other people who were seeing that were sitting in, a situation that wasn't my situation. And they're like, wow, this guy is arrogant, screw this guy. And it's painful for them to watch something like that, because they don't have that. And I'm more cognizant of that. Empathy was something that I had to like really say, look, I need to be aware of other people's emotions and feelings. They may not, take it like how I'm thinking that they're taking it. And I think a lot of it was that as well, is, there's jealousy. It comes from, pain.
Yeah.
And so, as much as I look, that stuff works, blowing up the cash, doing the gold AK-47s and all that, funny. And that was a phase in my life. Moving forward, I understand that like, that's just not at what cost to me and to the people watching it was that content, and what was the karmic repercussions of that? Right. And they weren't good. So I don't recommend doing that to people, watching this podcast.
Well, that's a very insightful answer. Yeah. I didn't know what to expect when I asked you, but I do remember that, man. That coincided. I met you, I think, in 2017.
Right.
My career really started to take off in 2019 in this business, man. I remember seeing that stuff, and I saw it as inspirational, like, man. And I had met you as a person. I knew who you were. I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it. Let's you can make that kind of money. That's how you met. Like I can see. So I worry about that with me too. But I feel like I'm coming from a good place on whatever. People can take it how the hell they want to take it. But as long as you come from that place and you know it, I think that's right. But it's good to have that empathy and be aware of that as well.
Yeah.
So let's go into the affiliate marketing, man. You are by nature a marketer, man. What do you? Yeah, I'm excited about this next chapter for you, right? Because I feel like, man, you're gonna come out with all this different kind of insight. As marketers, we have to know it's all about human psychology, is what it comes down to, creating win-win. So what are you gonna be working on, or what are you working on now?
So so what I'm working on is, I do internal media buying for, I can't get the specifics because it's very sensitive to, and there's a lot of people that would like to see me still fail. But what I'm really focused on, and I think, what I've seen in this industry, seeing, getting out and like seen such a difference since I've been was in prison, is a maturity in the industry. And I think that I've seen a lot more people taking this as a real business. When I first got into it, it was just like, well, how can I make $1 million in this campaign, going to campaign to campaign and the affiliate offer to offer. It was just wild west. Now I've seen a much bit more maturity in the business. Like, this is a real business, this is a real industry. And how do we take that, to the next level? And I'm really like, reading so many of the books, especially on private equity, I realized that like every business that I start, I need to have an exit plan, at least 2 exit plans. And so that's what I'm focused on, is how do I build a business that is an actual asset to somebody that would buy my business at a multiplier? Like a private equity firm, what are they looking for in a business? How can I build something that is actually valuable to a company that can exit me out at a multiplier? And that's what it's all about, is leverage, right? Because that's what internet marketing is. When you leverage ad spend, you now have like a sales team, right? That goes out and sells your product or service. And so if you keep that mentality of leverage, it's like, how do I continue that leverage? How do I get bigger multipliers on an exit? How do I make this business valuable? How do I structure this in such a way that somebody could buy this business and it would survive without me being there anymore, and I could exit and move on to other things? And as marketers, we're so valuable because we can go into any business and drive revenue to that business. And so immediately. And so we should be thinking, I would like to see, and I already see it with Alec Hormozi's stuff with acquisitions.com. I think what he's doing is phenomenal. Is a shift towards, how do we work with private equity firms? How do we build value in these companies? How do we structure them in a way that we can sell them? And how do we continue doing that over and over again, and really building generational wealth versus just like showy Bentley money, you know what I mean? Mansion and, Rolex money, which is fun, right? It's a lot of fun. Been there, done that. We've a lot of these guys in here, we've done very well. And I think that's where I love where the industry is going now. I'm seeing a lot more of that. And I think anyone that's either entered into this industry or been in this industry for a while, I'd encourage them to really focus on the private equity play. And I think that's in 5 years from now, I expect to see a lot of these companies, people in here, and a lot more private equity guys in here.
There's a new endeavor called Roofs in the Box. It's just, man, from day one, it's taken off.
When I first started getting into the roofing industry, what was happening was my fixed costs were always there. And so for me, I was looking at how can we kind of, 1, save on these costs, and then 2, how do I not lay people off during down times? But also maybe even the ability to pocket more money during the slow season or even the peak season. Since we've done this before, like with our lead gen companies where we have virtual staffing and from Argentina or Colombia, I'm like, why don't we do the same thing in the construction business? Now, once we figured it out, so we reduced their fixed cost by 70%. And so now during the downtime, they have real seasoned veteran type of players. But during the uptime, they pocket 70% of their operational costs are now going back in their pocket. And then when it's time to scale, they have the back end prepared, already ready to go to help them like lift off. Depending on what state you're in, you're averaging about 12.5% on what you pay out on taxes, insurance, all the different insurances that you have to pay out, right? So yeah, you don't have to pay out unemployment, you don't have to pay out FICA insurance, Medicare, Social Security, the things that business owners have to eat.
Roofs in the Box is not just limited to roofing or home improvement companies.
You can use it for any services, right? You can use it for IT. We use them internally for data sales, for hygiene, for analytics. It doesn't even matter what the vertical is.
It's like business in the box at the end of the day.
Pretty much, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, you're 100% right about that. I think when I first started, it was everyone wanted me quick money. Or even me, I started this as a side hustle. And then when I started really making money, I'm like, wow, this is a real fucking business,
Well, how do you start? All of us Googled how to make money online quick today. All of us started with like the quick, easy, quick hustle mentality,
Yeah. No, with me, it started out, I made a phone call. One of my buddies, Seth Passer, right? You know that when you do it
on the floor, yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, listen, you could broker some leads. I made one phone call. I don't know. I don't even know what I said. I got to the gatekeeper and I sold some student loan consolidation leads.
Okay, were you buying from me? Who were you buying from?
Some guy in California. No, I don't know. Maybe it was you. I think you were connected somehow. I don't know what happened.
Probably a broker that was buying
something
it from
like
me.
that.
Yeah.
But bro, it was like a $2,000 sale. Right. It wasn't a huge amount. I think my commission was like I don't know what it was, 300.
Right.
I did that in like 5 minutes. Right. I'm like, bro, if I made 300 in 5 minutes, multiply that times 12, that's like 3,600 an hour. Like, bro, this is some real shit. I can scale this. So I kept doing more, getting more and more deals, and then shit started to move. But, I did that as a side hustle. And then this side hustle was making more money than my regular consulting job. And then it started making double, triple. Like, I'm doing this shit full time, but never in my dreams. And I thought, I had an opportunity to exit my company. Right. Bad timing. Solar went the other way. So we didn't go through with it, but that was my first taste of it, man, in the private equity space. And I think that since then, a lot more people are starting to own their own offers. Right. They don't just want to be lead jockeys. Right. And I think that you're right. You're going to see a lot more of that stuff. And I'm glad to hear that you're saying that because, at the end of the day, regardless, people look at someone like you're an OG, right? And that carries some status. It carries some, like, it's like the veterans, man. They know their shit. They're a veteran for a reason.
Right. I was telling my buddies, I was like, I don't know if it's good or bad that I'm still in this industry. It's good, right? Because I'm a survivor, right? We just keep it pushing. But it's bad because, if we were a real G, we would have exited by now. But, it's a life lesson, it's a learning lesson. I'm 37 years old. And so you're young enough, right? I'm still young enough to make it happen and realize these things. But, there gets to a point where, none of us watching this want to just buy traffic for the rest of our lives. And who knows how long that's even going to be a thing. Just focus on the exit, man. Focus on the big payoff, the big leverage, man.
Yeah, I agree. And when I first mentioned, I want to talk about trends now and how you uncover trends or how do you get ahead of the curve, right? So when we first met, you were talking about campaigns that no one were doing yet. You were talking about there was the Me Too movement started happening around and you had some unique campaigns that kind of related, but no one was doing that you were on top of, right? And we talked offline about some other stuff, but how do you uncover that? And what's your recommendation to someone who's trying to catch? Because you're going to be ahead of the curve, man. I got into solar back in 2016. Right. It was probably the second inning, and I rode a lot of that wave. But, how do you get ahead where you can get in the first, second, third inning or something?
I really spend a lot of my time acquiring a lot of knowledge. And, I just read a blog article the other day for something I'm doing about it. It was a private equity guy who was talking about restructuring deals in a way that was very novel, when it comes to like kind of an annuity play. I can't get into super specifics, but it was this very just weird, like just off the hand quote. And I called the guy up yesterday and I really opened my eye up to like a whole new opportunity for me. And so it's just like, pay attention to like stuff. Don't read like gossip stuff. Read like these like industry stuff that are real, like kind of underground. And make sure that you spend time really just kind of digging through these kind of like business journals and you'll discover jewels there and stay away from the mainstream stuff. Anything that the mainstream media and the mainstream like people are consuming, that's not going to be really full of gems. It's going to be these kind of like trade publications that are telling you things before the general public understands them, or they're not even interested really. And and don't be afraid to contact people and just say, hey, I don't know what working looks like, but let's keep a conversation going. And you really will get those kind of that's how I stay ahead. And just intuitively, I think just doing it long enough, just intuitively understanding, how people, operate in like trends and cycles. So that just comes with time and experience.
Yeah, I love where you said, yeah, go off the beaten path is what it comes down
you have
to.
to.
If everyone's going this way, go a different way. Right. If everyone's in one vertical, you might not want to be in that vertical. And that goes back to when I met you. And I didn't know anyone doing Me Too of the shit that you were doing. I mean, maybe one or two people, but everyone else back then was doing, I think they were just doing like Medicare. Maybe they were doing debt. I don't remember, student loans, right? Mm-hmm. So you were doing something different, right? And even offline, we talked about different stuff. So you got to be surrounded with people doing different stuff. You're surrounded with people doing the same shit. How are you going to get ahead?
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing is like who you surround yourself with. And like you have to have your band of brothers and, sisters, but, read like having those warriors beside you that will lift you up when you fall and vice versa. And like real dudes that are ready to go to battle with you and you're ready to go to battle with them. Like you need like a group. It's not like a one-man band, you know, it's not a one-man journey. Like you have to have your brothers at arms ready to like go to battle with you and to really, really fight the bigger fights and to really like work together. And that's super important is who you run with. Like what is your wolf pack? The wolf pack. What does your wolf pack look like? And are they really, really, you know, have your back?
Yeah.
And are they really, really ready to attack something when it's time to attack? And like, that is something I've been blessed to surround myself with these people.
Yeah, that's huge, especially in our industry where money can come quick and people have ulterior motives.
Absolutely.
They're trying to gain something maybe and not in some sort of way that's not beneficial for you, right?
Right.
So I think that you got to be aware of that and not get sucked into that shit, man, because they're coming to pounce when you fuck up.
Absolutely. I think Gucci Mane said it as a rapper. There's a call, first day out the feds. He has a rap quote there that says, you know, essentially like, if I'm surrounded by wolves, if they don't eat, they're gonna eat me. You know, so it's an interesting concept. Like, you know, the very thing that like you've got to be strong and surround yourself with strong people, but you got to know that, you know, they're not going to eat you. But at the same time, you got to know that they have the ability to. I know it's kind of a weird thing.
It makes sense.
Kind of abstract that from society. We live in a society where we don't see the competition like this guy could murder me, right? This guy next to me, right? But cavemen did. And they understood that intrinsically. We've just hid that from ourselves.
Yeah.
And so you got to understand, like, the people you surround yourself should be like, not killers. I don't want to say killers, but they should be, you know what I mean? Have that kind of, you know, killer
instinct too.
Killer instinct.
Yeah, like a killer instinct.
And
yeah.
you got to be, you know, it's a fine line between finding the people that'll pounce on you when you're down and that will help you when you're up. It's an interesting, there's a book called Simulacrum that talks about the abstractions in our society and how we've gone so far from the actual real world that the reality that we stop understanding these concepts. So I think it's important for us to really, really dig deeper into like caveman psychology. Yeah.
At the end, they were animals, right? It's fucking survival of the fittest, and we forget that sometimes.
Right.
I mean, we're not. I don't know. We live in houses, got AC or whatever.
Right.
Like we have all these creature comforts, right? That we never had. So
yeah,
you forget that.
That's the thing. Another thing in prison taught me was it really is caveman, like living like a caveman. I saw people get stabbed over a honey bun, over respect, just literally a disrespect. You know, people get killed and stabbed and just all types of stuff. And it really made me realize we're not that far off from caveman. You know, in prison, it's all out in full display. And so, you know, social dynamics in prison was something that really made me realize how really we're just a veil away from that killer instinct.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I meant to ask you that question earlier. I'm glad you came back to it because I read a book on Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if it was called The Tipping Point, but he talked about like all these crazy situations, like when someone gets pulled over by the police and then they wind up getting killed. And you look at the audio, there's a point where disrespect occurs.
Disrespect.
The police officer was disrespected. The person pulled over for disrespect. Before you know it, they start going back and forth. Boom, someone gets shot and killed.
And it's also miscommunication. So this is another. There is I studied linguistics and there's an interesting phenomenon in language where what I'm saying is not necessarily interpreted how I'm thinking. It's like how our communication. I'm thinking I'm telling you something, and you're not interpreting it the way I'm assuming you are. And language is such an abstract thing, right? It's actually an audio symbol that is like attached to like meaning. And we assume that we are speaking the same language. We should understand. And oftentimes we don't culturally, you know, language, dialects, and there's a lot to unpack there. And so like understanding that even in marketing was huge, but also understanding that interpersonal communication that like, you know, you never assume that what you're saying, that the other person is interpreting how you mean it to. And always assume maybe that there's a miscommunication and try to recognize that, spot that as soon as you can. It's actually way harder than you think. Yeah.
And you know what, we're talking about respect too. It ties into the relationship with clients as well. There's so many times where, listen, we messed up. My team messed up. We screwed something up, but pick up the damn phone, apologize to the client. Right? Show that level of respect. When you disappear, they're like, this guy doesn't respect me. They don't respect my time, whatever. And then you're not going to be able to scale that client. There's been times where I know my competition had better leads than I had. Right. But because I went the extra mile, I did the right thing when I didn't have to do the right thing, or I did when I went and visited them and maybe create some extra value. I went to the call center and tweaked a few things, but at the base level, it comes down to respect, right? So it's not, it could be a life or death situation, or it could also be a way to really grow your company. There could be that little element that helps you go from point A to point B, or you go from 1 million in revenue to 5, 10 million in revenue, right?
Well, another thing that really helped me out and is a really big, powerful tool is the Myers-Briggs test. And I encourage everyone to take it. You can go to like 16 Personalities. It's a pretty good place to take it. It's free. And learn your personality type. And every personality type responds to like situations very differently. So I'm an ENTJ, which means I'm extroverted, I'm intuitive, I'm a thinker, and I'm ENTP, not ENTJ, and I'm perceptive, right? And so like I perceive the world in possibilities and basically intuitive possibilities. And somebody that, for example, is an ISTJ is exact opposite. Everything is defined, black and white. There's no infinite possibilities. There's just this or that, yes or no. It's very binary for these people. And so understanding how somebody's personality type and understanding your own personality type when communicating really helps to bridge that gap in communication. It's understanding if I'm talking to an ISTJ, I'm not talking like, oh, there's all these possibilities. I'm saying this is that and this is this, and that will really clear up a lot of communications quite frequently. And you should know all of the personality types of the people in your team internally, because you'd be surprised how you're really not utilizing people's talents and innate talents, optimally when you take the Myers-Briggs test, and you it's good to use that to build teams. And it's just good for every kind of interpersonal communication. So it's kind of my secret weapon.
Yeah, and you could avoid conflict, avoid unintentionally disrespecting somebody. In some cases, it's a matter of life or death. And that's what the book was talking about. It was breaking down all these situations, and it really at the base level came down to respect. And I could imagine in prison, that's a huge thing. Did you ever have any close calls with anybody, maybe because of lack of miscommunication or something?
I mean, a lot. I got jumped by 12 inmates because of a situation that was a miscommunication based off of respect.
Wow.
Yeah, I had my eye socket fractured.
Oof.
Yeah, and it was pretty rough. But it all came down to respect, and the respect that person had felt disrespected by me, and it was not my intention, and it just escalated very, very quickly, and and sometimes it's kind of unavoidable. I feel like in that situation, I don't want to say it was unavoidable, but it's easy sometimes to get to those situations, and so interpreting them, understanding that, and trying to avoid that, and is going to be very helpful for sure.
Wow, man, I do. We talked about thinking differently and moving off of being path, and I love that you're sharing it, and thank you for you didn't have to share that, right? But I mean, that's no one wants to get jumped by 12 people, get you fucking
it's not fun.
It's not fun, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle a situation? Like what happens after that situation? I mean, how do you handle the people who jump you because it doesn't happen again? I mean, what's the
well, I never saw them again. They ended up, actually it was 3 weeks before I left.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like 3 weeks before I was actually out of prison. So I ended up doing the rest of the time on the shoe. But it's really, sometimes these things in prison, especially, almost unavoidable. Along that time in prison, you're going to get jumped. It's just what's going to happen. You're going to be in a situation like that. They're kind of unavoidable. Just think that try to avoid it. I don't know. I mean, like I said, sometimes you just can't help it. And you know what? Take the licks. Take the licks and keep on taking. Get back up. Don't cry about it. Swing as many times as you can. And, fight your whole way down. It's all I can say. Never just go in a fetal position if that situation arises. Yeah. Try to take down one or two with you. Yeah.
That's great advice at the end. Listen, I mean, damn. What else you gonna do, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Man. So this has been amazing. It's been great. Last piece of advice. I mean, so someone that's, I don't know, maybe a couple pieces. Someone that's brand new in this game, what do you recommend? Somebody that's like, I don't know, for OG has been doing as long as you have. But what's your recommendation based on what you've seen the last years?
So like focus on providing like a solution to a big pain point somebody has. Like that's a thing. Like it's easy to sell easy to think about selling widgets and focus on something that has a big problem, that solves a big problem. My first real big campaign was student loan consolidation. So that had a really big pain point because so many people have student loans they couldn't afford. focus on some solution to a big pain point and find a way to provide a big solution and become the best in the world at this. Like I talk to a lot of people, people come to me advice and they ask me what they should do. I said, well, what are you one of the best in the world at? They just drive a blank. Find something and develop something. The one thing that you're just like the best in the world at. I consider myself one of the best copywriters in the world. And like, I'm very confident about that because I've done the work, I've put in the work, and I've done the numbers. I've posted the numbers. So, specialize in one thing, find the leverage points. Internet marketing is a leverage point by itself. Writing copy is a leverage point, learning some media buying, and then focus on like an exit, like build a business that like from day one that you can structure in a way that you can exit, and like read books on private equity, read books on investment banking, read books on how the guys that are really the big dogs, like billionaires, or how they play the game, because there's so much bridge there that can be bridged between the affiliate marketing world and that world. And I already see it happening and try to develop those relationships. And I think that, you'll definitely leapfrog over a lot of the guys like myself that, had to learn it like kind of through trial and error in the hard way. And I think you'll do fine. I mean, this is a fantastic industry. It's full of a lot of, rewards. And, if you really stick to it, you will reap the benefits for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great advice. Now, again, prior to going away, you were very vocal in social media. I haven't seen you on social media since. Are you planning kind of returning to social media, or what? What's your some sort of presence?
A bit, I am, not as much, not in the same way, there's just, like I said, I'm really structuring towards like an exit, right? And so I don't want something to like necessarily hiccup me moving forward, But yeah, I mean, social media, I don't want to be a consumer of social media anymore. I want to be a customer of social media, right? And the consumer is somebody that endlessly scrolls. And, actually the really good way of looking at it is like, how much do you pay Facebook and Twitter and YouTube? Most people pay almost nothing, zero, right? If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Don't be the product. Be, to be the customers. Don't be, and there's a lot to unpack there, but, social media can be really negative and positive. Use it for money, not for entertainment.
Yeah. Man, you dropped so much knowledge here. I don't even know how to. There's so much to unpack here, and I really appreciate it, sir. And I'm glad I ran into you. Yeah. I didn't expect to see you. It was great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't seen you maybe in 5 years.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with the audience.
Appreciate it, guys.
How can people find out more about you?
You can follow me on X, not a bot Ron, like not a bot Ron, or Facebook, or wherever. Pretty easy. Just Google me. You just get past all the Jan 6 stuff, you'll find me.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, this was amazing. We got really philosophical here, like super philosophical.
Yeah, it was great.
You got my brain going, right, man. Which is at the end, that's what we need. That's what we're here to do.
Absolutely.
I love it, Ronnie. Thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate you.
We'll see more of you. I can't wait to see the next phase of this.
Yes. And use Ringbud. Ringbud's great.
Use Ringbud too. LFG sponsor, proud sponsor. Where I get you up there, go to award right there, man.
Oh yeah. All right. Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's fucking go. Phenomenal podcast.
Get ready to level your shit up with the LFG Show. We travel the globe to bring you heavy hitters from all walks of life. We've been talking some serious business, from the best digital marketers, government contracting experts, to top athletic and celebrity doctors. We've got it all covered. We're talking to guys who've cashed in for billions with a B. And the best thing is, we're just getting started. So hold on tight. We're about to crank it up a notch. Get ready for next level networking and masterminds within the LFG community. Scared money don't make no money or honey. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, and let's fucking go.